Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today to another episode of Coffee, Coaching, and Conversation. I am your host, Kimberlee Deneice. And I am an empowerment coach helping Christian professionals to recognize and activate their spiritual gifts, understand their behavior and communication styles so that they can be intentional about being salt and light in their areas of influence. If that's you, then you need to stay tuned in. Today, my special guest is none other than Kendrick J. Campbell Sr. He is a pastor. He is a preacher, teacher. He is so many things. He's a friend and a brother. And so I am excited and delighted to have him here with me today. He is in the green room. Getting ready to come. Yes, I said the green room. We fancy now. He's in the green room and he's getting ready to come on in and join us today. Kendrick, good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Good morning. God bless you. Thank you for having me.
Look, I am excited. Wait a minute. Before I go too far, let's just give this man an applause. Thank you for being here. We're excited. We are ready for this lesson today. And before we jump into it, I just want you to share with the people a little bit more about yourself, your ministry, and if you would also like to share how we met and how long we've known each other before we dive deep into our topic today about talking about forgiveness is a process. All right. So introduce yourself, how you and I connected, all that good stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I hope that you can hear me clearly. I appreciate being on this platform. I am Kendrick J. Campbell Sr. I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I currently live in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I'm just thankful for the ministry that God has blessed me to develop in this city as well as in my hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. I have been friends with Kimberlee Deneice Richards, amen, for so many years, and we met in this same capacity. We met serving in a ministry in Memphis, Tennessee, and we also were connected in a event that she sponsored, that she hosted, that she is the CEO of and founder of, called Face Like a Boss. And we had a couple of empowerment sessions that were very, 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 very near and dear to remember them so well. And it did a lot of stuff for me in the area of not just preaching the gospel, but being an inspiration, being motivation to people who really need to be motivated. I totally endorse Kimberlee Deneice today on everything that she's doing, because I've been with her from the beginning, so to speak, and we went our own separate ways for a minute doing other things, but God has allowed us to reconnect. Also, you all know the professional side of Kimberlee Deneice. I know the professional and the personal side, and she's a goofball just like me. Just like me, but that's how we connected. But our workmanship, our spirits connected. We've been working together for years, and she's a good friend, and she's a sister to me. And I thank God for this opportunity to be on this platform.
Thank you so much. It's amazing to have you here today. I know we've got some people joining us live. Listen, if you are catching the replay, make sure that you put hashtag replay in the comments. If you are here with us live right now, this is an opportunity for you to get a little bit of shine. We want to know that you are here so that we can know who we are speaking to today, who's here, who's present. So if you don't mind, just dropping a good morning or saying something in the comments. I want to make sure that we know that you are here, and that we can acknowledge you, so that you we can be speaking directly to you. We're grateful for you. We do this for you, not for ourselves. And so we're just grateful for that. So don't feel like you have to say anything. Oh my goodness. I know we doing something this morning. My brother is not only up, he is watching this broadcast. Good morning to you, my biological brother. I know I got a lot of spiritual brothers. My actual brother. We grew up in the house together, 7 years younger than me. Yeah, my brother. For real, brother. All right. Christina is on this morning. Good morning, Christina. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are so excited that you guys are here. Listen, we're talking about forgiveness still. We're talking about healing, this process of healing. But the Lord told me to specifically focus this month on forgiveness. So if you're connected with me on social media, you've seen my posts about forgiveness and some of the steps. I've even shared some scriptural references, which I'm sure we will have more of today. But we are talking about forgiveness. And today we're talking about forgiveness as a process, this process of forgiveness. So I just want to make sure before we jump in, because I know Kendrick very well, and I know that once he gets started, I might not be able to jump in. It's gonna be like double dutch, and I'm gonna have to wait for my turn to jump in. So I just want to go ahead and just kind of to set us up and to stay in alignment with what we've been talking about. Just make sure that I do my due diligence today. You all know that teaching is something that's important to me, and that I like to give you all sound information. So just want to make sure that you understand we're talking about forgiveness, and that you understand that I forgive you sounds like something so simple, right? It sounds so simple, but sometimes it can be challenging. You make up in your mind to forgive, and you think it's all done, but it's not that simple. Forgiving someone for the wrong that they've done and the hurt that they've caused you is not easy. We all know that, and it is not something you can expect to forgive and forget in a few minutes. So instead of choosing to forgive, um, instead choose to forgive. Choose to forgive. That's a decision that you make once, but then the process of forgiveness begins. I'll say that again. So when you choose to forgive, it's a decision that you make once. Then the process of forgiveness begins. So what it all boils down to is that forgiveness is a healing process. And just like a cut on your finger that takes time to heal, so does mental pain. So as you move through the process of forgiveness, don't be surprised if you lapse back into old feelings of anger and resentment. It's normal and it's okay to have those feelings. But part of the process is reminding yourself again and again that you are choosing forgiveness. All right, Kendrick, I'm gonna let you go ahead and do what you do, my brother. Come on with it. I know you got it for us this morning.
Well, I'm that's a very needed uh, conversation that needs to be had for multiple reasons. There are people potentially that are watching uh, that is dealing with some personal forgivenesses, and if that's even a word, but I'm going to say that dealing with uh, forgiveness in personal matters. There are people that's dealing with uh, forgiveness in business matters. There's people that's dealing with forgiveness in ministry matters, and then there are people that are dealing with forgiveness of themselves, within themselves, having a problem uh, forgiving themselves, holding things in their heart, stressing out their mind, which ultimately causes stress in your body. Nonetheless, we don't take the appropriate steps or commit the time to deal. It's not so much dealing at that point. It's not so much dealing with forgiveness, because the very thing that causes them not to forgive is to not deal with the hurt, to not deal with the very reason that they were hurt, and that's the greatest matter. That's the greatest matter. You have to be willing to deal with what hurt you. But when we're dealing with forgiveness, there's a hard truth that comes with the idea of forgiveness, and it comes by way of its not Webster definition, but the biblical definition of forgiveness is what's more important. And there's a hard truth, and this is the hard truth. The hard truth is, by definition, what forgiveness is to number one, not forget, but forgive the trespass, which means deal with the hurt, let go of the trespass. Then it comes to clearing your mind to make sure that once you've let go of the trespass, that you don't speak of the trespass. And then when you leave the point of not bringing up the trespass, what you do is you put the person that offended you right back in the position that they were before they committed the trespass. Now, we can say that we forgive the trespass, and some of us are even disciplined enough to not bring the trespass up again. But the problem that we have, and even I have had, is the third step, and that is putting the person back in the position that they were before they made the trespass against you. That means that you have to open yourself up again. You have to be vulnerable to them again, knowing that they have the potential of doing this again, but taking that risk. That is the biblical definition of forgiveness. But we get caught up in that place of not putting, we get caught up in not putting them back in that place. And until you can do that, you have to ask yourself, have I really forgiven them? Have I really forgiven them? How do I know this? Christ gives it to us. Christ gives it to us. We literally break the heart of God every single day. We tell him that we're going to do things. We tell him that we're going to commit to things. We tell him that we're going to not do things. And we do them or not do them. You understand what I'm saying? The opposite of what we said that we were going to do. Now that breaks literally the heart of God, because the same way as God is telling you to trust him, God needs to be able to trust you. He needs to be able to trust you. And your development is in that. Your development is in that. If we pray to God consistently about folks, us being able to forgive somebody and God forgiving us, we have to always go back to what it says in Mark 11:24. It says, therefore, whatsoever things we desire, we pray, believe that we receive them, and we shall have them. But the next verse tells us, but when we stand praying, that we must forgive, which means that a lot of things that are being held up from us is because we have not forgiven. We forgiven, and people don't understand that a lot of the pain that we are causing in our life, a lot of the lack that we're causing in our life, a lot of the stress that we're causing for our life is locked up in the spirit of unforgiveness. The other thing is that the same thing, 9 times out of 10, the same thing that you are trying to, or asking, saying that you want forgiveness for this, that, and the other. Some of those same things are the things that you have done. And sometimes God has to remind you while you're holding grudges that you're holding a grudge on the things that you have done. And so we have to be mindful of that. If we can't forgive others for what they've done to us, now it has to be handled correctly. It has to be handled correctly. It has to be handled correctly. You have to be able to admit that you've done a thing. You have to be able to own up to that you've done a thing. When you've done that, then forgiveness can take place. But then there are some levels where you don't even wait for the apology because you already understand that a lot of people are not going to apologize. So you have to be able to and willing to forgive with an apology that's not present, an apology that's not there and that won't ever probably be there. So what am I saying in all
Wait a
this?
minute. Wait a minute. You took me too fast. We got to be willing to forgive whether we get an apology or not.
Or not. Period. How many people have you dealt with? How many people have you dealt with? You knew and they knew that they were wrong, but they never came to apologize to you. They never came and made it right. And you've been holding it because you've been waiting on them. They'll be back. We say that they'll be back. They'll talk to me. They'll eventually come back. Why are you waiting? And as a matter of fact, let me tell you this. And this goes back to the biblical definition of forgiveness. The Bible tells us this. The Bible tells us this, that when an offense has been made unto you, you are not to wait for that person who made the offense to you to come and apologize. The Bible said that you need to go to them. So if you are the offended one, you have the greater responsibility, according to the Bible, to go back to them. Go to them and make things right. Our problem is we're waiting on people to come and apologize to us and say, I'm sorry, and make things right, who are living in life of pride, who will never come. They'll never come. I'm gonna stop right there and see if you want to dig in any of that because I know you think I'll go all day, which I will.
I mean, that's so good. I mean, there's so much in this process. I think the most. Go ahead.
No, I'm waiting on you. I'm not saying anything. I
Okay.
think we're having some camera problems, but go ahead.
Okay. I think it's a little delayed, but we'll keep pushing. We'll work with it. But I think it's so good what you said and just understanding this process, this process of forgiveness, and that it's not about forgiveness is not about us getting an apology. It's about, as you said something earlier, about us releasing it. And I've been talking about that in my social media posts. We release, what has been done to us. So like, just talking about this process and, yes, it's hard, but an important part of this process is to realize that it does not mean that the other person wins or that you condone what they've done. Instead, it means that you choose to forgive so that you can move on. Your ability to move forward, your ability to grow, your ability to do the things that God will have you to do are dependent on you, not on them. All right. So you choose to forgive so you can move on. And it's a decision that you'll make over and over again until it sticks. It's got to stick. So it's a process. It's hard, but it's well worth the effort. But there's good news that just like so many other areas of our lives, practice does make perfect. So the more we practice forgiveness, the better we get at it and the easier it becomes. Now, I want to kind of dig into this on kind of another level because I know you can kind of take us there, Kendrick. The more we practice this process, the better we get at it. That doesn't mean we just allow people to constantly hurt us and to walk over us. That doesn't mean that. I know we're talking about forgiveness, but I think we also need to talk about having healthy boundaries as well. recognizing when situations are toxic and when we may just need to walk away. I think we need to dive into that too, because we're talking about healing. Yes, we're talking about forgiveness, but I think a part of that is making sure that we have established some healthy boundaries and we can recognize when we're in toxic situations. Sometimes we put ourselves in situations that we were never meant to be in. So I know you can kind of jump in there.
Sometimes forgiveness is going to be accompanied by separation, and that's because that comes with wisdom. It comes with wisdom um, and discernment. If you're dealing with a situation that's very toxic, and you see some changes that are taking place, and you see uh, uh, an issue or a situation where sometimes that pain does produce something and it's starting to change things for the better, then okay, I can understand you're not disconnecting. There's a time where you forgive and a hurt produced something that was that caused your relationships or your friendships to be better. Then I can understand uh, you staying in that situation. Not everything that hurts you is meant to divide you. Sometimes you have to go through some things, especially in marriages and personal relationships. A lot of things you go through is meant to strengthen you and cause growth. Sometimes we have to go through a few things. However, however, there are some times when you go through some things uh, that is damaging, and even though both of those are damaging, they're damaging, but you don't see where there's any growth, where there's any mind change, where there's any action change. In fact, every time that you uh, forgive or act in forgiveness, it seems like the next time it's a lot worse. Well, you're pretty much dealing with a polluted or a toxic situation at that point. At that point, especially if it's any way abusive, and I'm not just meaning abusive as it relates to physical abuse. I'm talking about also mental abuse, because a lot of our damage is mental. It's mental, and whatever takes place in your mind is the thing that's pretty much going to guard your life. It's going to dictate your life. So when we're dealing with uh, that in the mental, you have to have wisdom. You have to have wisdom. You have to have discernment for strength, because some things you're literally, to save your mind, are going to have to disconnect from. I've been preaching over the last month in the areas concerning spiritual warfare, regional warfare, personal warfare, and in some situations, disconnect is mandatory. It's mandatory because it's only causing you mental health. It's only causing you spiritual dilapidation. You're not growing any spiritually. You're distraught in your mind. Some people have, even so much because of those two, fallen into a place of being suicidal, and some people would be like, it, no, to go to suicide, that's going to the extreme. But you don't know what certain herbs, you know, got the people to in their mind to where they feel like they wanted to die. And there are some people that have killed themselves, literally have uh, committed suicide behind a hurt that they can never heal from. They can never heal from, and it's all because sometimes you're loyal. You're loyal to a fault. You're loyal to the point of death. And so with, to try to maintain the reputation of being loyal and faithful inside of hurt that's tearing you down mentally and emotionally, that's unnecessary. That's unnecessary. I don't have to prove. What I need to prove at that point is not that I'm loyal, but that I have wisdom and that I love myself to not allow a situation to literally tear me down, mind, body, and spirit. So sometimes it's working enough to stay in it, and it produces something and it gets better. There are many testimonies of people better behind it. But then there's that hurt you so bad that you end up having to disconnect, and disconnect would be the better choice. Disconnect would be the better choice.
That's good. Sometimes to disconnect would be the better choice. I think it's good that you talked about that. This is so good. I know there's so much, packed into this. But I just this process though. Um, let's get into um the thought, the mindset, I forgive you, but I won't forget. I forgive you, but I won't forget. Let's get into that mindset.
You, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest, and I'm speaking personally. So I'm not saying that this is anybody else's, and so you can just pretty much get in where you fit in when it comes down to this. This is personal for me. Uh, we have to talk about the word forget, and we have to talk about it contextually. I don't anticipate ever really forgetting anything that hurt me or damaged me. Uh, it is my lesson. It is my lesson. It is something that I can refer back to when I see that same type of individual or that same type of spirit coming in contact with me again. I have to be able to recognize where I seen it before. That helps me guard myself. Now, that's my definition when it comes down to that. When it comes down to forget, uh, what people really mean when they say that, outside of biblically, what people really mean is I can forgive you. I I can get back with you and all that, but I'm going to put this in a position where I can hold it over your head to keep me from dealing with you, uh, or to keep this lifted up over your head. I'm gonna remind you every time we come into a situation that may cause me to have to trust you or depend on you. I'm going to remind you that you did this to me before, or I'm going to hold it over your head, and that's the damage. That's the damage. That's the damage. If you forgave me, forgive me. I don't want to be reminded of what I've done. I know I've done something. If you're going to remind me, then you should have never opened your mouth and said you forgave me, because you're still putting something in between us that won't allow me to make things right from when I messed up. Because in forgiveness, you're also giving me an opportunity to clean up what I messed up. In forgiveness, when you forgive me, you're forgetting what I've done, and you're giving me an opportunity to fix what I broke the last time. But when you have this reminder, this alarm set that goes off every time I talk to you about something, or every time I ask you about something, or this, that, and the other, then you're not really forgiving me, because you're not giving me an opportunity to really fix what I broke in. When I deal with forgetting a thing, I have to remind what the scripture says, and that is that when Jesus forgives us, he casts it away from him. It's the same principle of somebody doing something for you, or blessing you with something. What burns my soul is for somebody to do something for me and constantly remind me that they did that for. I would rather, especially when I didn't ask you to do it. If you did it, you were supposed to do it from your heart. And you don't have to announce to other people that you did it for me. You don't have to remind me that you did it for me. If I have any kind of integrity or decency, I know and I remember, because in my appreciation, I need to show you that I remember what you have done for me. Same thing with forgiveness. If I hurt you, which I probably did, because I'm not a person who walks around acting like I've never done anything wrong to anybody, or I never said anything that may have offended somebody. And so, but when I come to you with forgiveness, my apology, my sincere, godly sorrowfulness, and you say you forgive me, I don't expect to hear it again. I don't expect it to be a hold up in our next venture or our next dealings with each other. If you forgive me, forgive me. Simple as that. But that whole I forgive, but I won't forget. Uh, that's and look at that statement. Look at that statement with my literal self. Look at that statement. I will forgive you, but I won't forget. But cancels out everything. If you have any kind of English training, when you use the word but, that means you don't mean nothing you really said before the word but. I forgive you, but I just won't forget. That means you really don't forgive me, because forgetting in its right context is required in your forgiveness.
That's so good. That's so good. I like all of that. All of that. So I know we'll be continuing this conversation, as we continue and do other things. I know we've talked about hosting some rooms on Clubhouse and all of that for all my iPhone users that have gotten an invitation and that are on there. We'll be doing some of those things because it's, audio only, not recorded, in a good space to just show up and be salt and light. So Kendrick, I thank you so much for your time today, for being willing to come on to share with us about this process of forgiveness. If guys, those of you that are watching this live or you're watching the replay, go and follow him now. Make sure you are following him. I should have tagged him in this post, but it's real easy to find him. So make sure you are following him on Instagram. He is at Strength for the Streets. And just like that, Strength, the number 4, DA Streets. Strength for the Streets. Make sure you're following him there as well. Kendrick, again, thank you so much for your time today. To this matter, I just want to make sure that the viewers know. I want to make sure that I let them know how they can follow up as a part of this process. We will be continuing this conversation. Got some really exciting things going on. In the beginning, in his intro, Kendrick mentioned Faith Like a Boss. And if you know me, you know Faith Like a Boss. We're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of Faith Like a Boss being launched. And we've been doing some things here and there since then, but we are excited about what God is doing with Faith Like a Boss this year. And so in place of a workshop, we are doing this month a 3-day challenge, so that you can discover your why. So I'll have more details about that. Make sure you're following me on all social media platforms. Make sure you have signed up for my newsletter, all of that good stuff. There's going to be some really great things attached to that. Also, I'm getting ready to open up enrollment to my mentorship program. If Faith Like a Boss, if that's you, if you identify with that, just so you know whether or not you identify with it. Faith Like a Boss is a global tribe of Christian professionals that is diverse, dynamic, and spirit-led. This is a movement of believers who are salt and light to their areas of influence. So if that's you, if you feel like that is you, you don't want to miss out on an opportunity to join my mentorship program so that I can help you not only recognize your spiritual gifts, but be able to activate them in the marketplace, understand and recognize your behavioral patterns, your communication patterns, so that you can be effective as you are impacting and changing your world. So listen, thank you all so much for your time today and for being here. We are so excited about it. Kendrick, thank you again for your time, and we wish you nothing but the best. Blessings to you and your ministry and Fort Lauderdale. But keep us, those of us that are tuning in live or the replay, those of us in Memphis, your hometown, keep us close
Yeah.
to your heart. Keep us covered in prayer. But we appreciate you so much, and just thank you for your time today. And guys, listen, we'll be back. We'll be back next week. And just know that this platform, Coffee Coaching and Conversation, is an opportunity. We want you to live your faith. We want you to build your dreams, but we also want you to change the world. All right. So peace and blessings to you all.